Yeah, yeah. Yeah, we start to play. Steelers by the lake, with a word to say. James Strong, Cody Tanner, hosts on the mic. About to dive in deep, keep it live, that's right.
Welcome to the Steelers by the Lake podcast. My name is James Strong, joined once again by my co-host Cody Tanner. Cody, how are you on this day one of the legal tampering period of the NFL?
James, I am doing lovely. This is an emergency show, a show we did not have planned. There's some things happening in the Steelers world that we didn't want to wait to get until Sunday to talk about. Some things we will wait. We'll discuss briefly and we'll go over that. James, how are you?
I'm doing well, man. Doing well. Pretty late at night for me, but we're going to make this happen for the people because y'all deserve this.
Absolutely, absolutely. I got home from the gym, cooked some salmon, showered. Here we are, a little later than we'd like to be. Before we go too far into this, James, we want to talk and pay our respects to a Pittsburgh legend. You want to go over that real quick?
Yeah, Craig Wolfley unfortunately passed away today. This was surprising to most. I didn't even know he was sick. I hadn't even heard any rumors of this. Apparently, there's something that kind of came up pretty recent, and I haven't heard any details as to what it was. But by all accounts, Craig Wolfley was an excellent human being, high quality football player for the Steelers. Turned into an announcing career where he was highly entertaining and really an all around good dude. So sad day in the land of the Pittsburgh Steelers with the passing of Craig Wolfley.
Yeah. So we are going to pay our respects by a moment of silence here briefly, and then there's a chance we discuss this a little bit more in depth on the next actual show. Thank you guys for that moment of silence. James, now there's a lot of stuff going on in the Steelers world. Wow. Pittsburgh has a new number one wide receiver. We thought we needed a number two. We got a new number one. I don't think there's any other way of putting that, or we got two number ones. I don't know at this point. I tell you what, we got two number 14, so that's going to be interesting. Pittsburgh Steelers did trade their second round and seventh round pick, one of the seventh round picks, excuse me, to Seattle for DK Metcalf and a sixth round pick. So we have one extra sixth round, lose a seventh, lose the second. So doesn't change, or it does change the overall number of draft picks we have by -1. Unfortunately, we lose the second, but we do gain a sixth and move up technically around with one of those seventh. Wow. I didn't think this was going to happen.
I'll tell you what, I didn't necessarily think it was going to happen. But if any of you watched the Hardcore Sports Network morning show that I'm on with Mitch every Sunday morning at 10 a.m. on YouTube on their channel, he asked me, what do you think? It sounds like Seattle has lowered the cost. And I said, I think Pittsburgh should jump all over this. A second round pick is tremendous value for a quality wide receiver like that. DK Metcalf, in my opinion, is a better quality receiver than any wide receiver available in this year's NFL draft. There is not a DK Metcalf quality dude in this draft class. There's going to be 3 or 4 guys probably go in the first round that are wide receivers, but none of them are like this. So you've got a really high quality football player, high quality character, blocks his butt off in the run game. That is a tremendous thing for Pittsburgh. The deep threat, the power, the speed that is just out of this world, and he's only 27 years old. So still a young dude. And then they immediately give him a 5-year, $150 million contract, paying him $30 million a year. So DK Metcalf, your new number one wide receiver for the Pittsburgh Steelers for the next 5 years, unless George Pickens really turns it on and tries to show Pittsburgh that they should pay both of them. But I got a feeling that this might mark the end of George Pickens, and I would not be surprised if there's a draft day trade to try to recoup a day 2 pick, whether it be a second or third round pick for Pickens.
Yeah. Yeah, it'd be very interesting if that happens. I don't want that to happen. I'd be very curious to see how these two could play together. I think it creates something very, very scary on offense. But again, that does, I mean, I don't even want to say, and this is the part that sucks, is because I believe that our wide receiver room was talented as is. I believe it was more talented than what people gave it credit for. We didn't have quarterbacks to give them the ball or the time to throw the ball to them. It was very difficult to kind of judge that accurately. Plus, we still have Roman Wilson, who's going to be basically a rookie this year, just like Calvin Austin was after he spent a whole year injured. So it's very interesting, but it technically does make George Pickens expendable to a degree. I mean, you have an upgrade at that position. If you manage to trade George and get something back in return, again, I don't want this. I'm just saying that this is possible. Then you can shore up that wide receiver room as well with a younger guy, and then that extends the time as well because you don't have to give that guy a new contract for 4 or 5 years, whatever. If it's a first round pick, it's 5 years potentially. If it's not, it's 4 or a little less, depending. But very, very interesting. Again, the biggest concern I have, James, and I think you'll understand my concern, is I believe that this kind of leans towards bringing back Russell Wilson. And I don't want to see that still, but that's because of the time that these two have spent, the chemistry they probably still have, just getting back in the same room together. And I don't want that because Justin Fields, this is supposed to be later on in the show, but we'll talk about it right now. Justin Fields is to the Jets on their 2-year, $40 million contract. So there's no bringing him back at this point.
Yep, and QBs are kind of flying off the board, and that's kind of the issue here. Is as much as I think probably a lot of Steelers fans did not want to see Russ as the returning quarterback this upcoming season, where things are at right now with the quarterbacks that are already gone, Sam Darnold's gone, Geno Smith was traded away. We're in a situation now that the top remaining quarterbacks are Russell Wilson, Aaron Rodgers, who looked pretty awful last year and could barely even move, or Daniel Jones.
Yeah.
It's not great. It's not great. Russ might be the best option of those three.
And I still don't know. It's so tough.
I think Rodgers, to be completely transparent, I think Rodgers probably still has the better arm and better vision of the field, but he just straight can't move now.
Correct. There's zero
mobility.
mobility.
He has zero mobility. At least you still have some with Russell Wilson. It's not great. It's not what it was when he was young, but he's not even close to immobile. And Aaron Rodgers is a statue back there. He can't move at all now.
I think coming from a personal standpoint, and then we can kind of move on a little bit. Unless you, I mean, I'm sure you'll have something else to add, but after that we can move on. From a personal standpoint, I would rather see Aaron Rodgers, and I can't stand Aaron Rodgers, to put this, in perspective. I would rather see Aaron, a person that I do not want on the team, can't stand, than Russell, because I think Russell takes away your ability to call certain plays on offense because of his inability to see the field over the offensive lineman. I think you can be a little bit more strategic with blocking schemes and helping out getting Aaron some time to throw the ball with tight ends and running backs and stuff like that, to actually take advantage of a guy like DK that we brought in, to take advantage of George. I think the passing ability outweighs the lack of mobility in this situation, comparing the two. Which I'm not saying that's a drastic difference, but I think it's enough that I want to be able to throw the ball down the field. Gosh darn it. It's been a while. It's frustrating. We have Freiermuth, Darnell, George, DK now, Calvin Austin, who can fly by defenders and then get underthrown. Like, I want to see us be able to move the ball down the field through the air again. So,
yeah, I hear you. I'm real mixed on it because I do feel like Aaron Rodgers would probably use the middle of the field more, and he would probably also read defenses and go through his progressions better than Russ does. But it kind of takes away any ability to do any bootlegs and rollouts and anything like that. That's just not even an option.
yeah.
And you worry that if you get in a situation where, say, maybe Broderick Jones is struggling blocking and you don't make the adjustment quick enough, that basically every pass play is going to be a wash because you won't be able to get the ball out fast enough.
Yep. It's it's an interesting time to be a Steelers fan for sure. Let's run over a couple other information that we're going to cover, so we don't have to on the next show. Steelers did tender Jaylen Warren with a second round pick, which is equal to $5 million. That is perfect. especially when you
Yeah.
consider losing the second round, that we could get one back if Jalen is signed somewhere else. I hope we don't. If we lose him, we're in trouble.
Yes.
We're in trouble. Like more
Well,
than I thought.
If we lose him, then they're using either a first or second round pick on a running back.
And we don't have a second round pick. So
Well, you would get it if you lost him. That's the thing.
fair. That's fair.
Yeah.
Pittsburgh also tendered Ryan McCollum for $1 million. I'm neither here nor there on that. It's backup offensive lineman. We need more backups anyways. I don't know. Or excuse me.
Yeah, he's a backup center, and I think that's perfectly fine as a backup center.
He
that's
had some
basically
starting
like
last
a
year,
league
right?
minimum.
Did he start a little
Exactly.
bit?
He got to start one game, and they actually ran the ball pretty effectively with him as the starting center that one game. So I think you could do way worse for a backup center with some guard capability, and that kind of helps you round out that backup offensive line room, because right now Spencer Anderson, I think, is the only real backup interior offensive lineman. So with Ryan McCollum, at least you got two warm bodies in there that know the system and know what they're supposed to be doing.
Yeah.
Speak warm bodies.
Warm bodies. We got a new middle linebacker on the team, which is crazy considering we just talked about how Cole Holcomb could potentially be, disposable at this point. So Steelers did bring in Malik Harris on a 2-year, $10 million deal. Malik Harris was drafted to the Baltimore Ravens in 2020 in the third round as the 98th overall pick. Nothing too crazy on the board for him. He did wind up having 2 sacks last year, which was the only 2 sacks in his entire career. But nothing too crazy stat-wise for him on the board. So interesting depth piece, though. What's up?
Yes, and along with depth, you always hope that your middle linebackers will contribute on special teams. My understanding is that he has been logging a good 300 snaps per season on special teams, whether it be kick coverage, kick return, punt coverage, all these units. He's been on all of them, basically, probably other than field goal protect. He's probably not on that unit, but my guess is he's been on all the other units, which is tremendous because I do believe Pittsburgh's moving on from some of those special teams only type guys, like Tyler Matakevich. I don't expect to see Tyler back. So you need a backup middle linebacker that can do that role. And that was my thing with Elandon Roberts, and why I didn't think they should bring him back is because as a backup middle linebacker, you need to be able to contribute on special teams, and he cannot. Yeah. He's too old. He's too slow. He's not agile enough. He's just not a suitable player for special teams and didn't play it anymore. Hadn't played it in years, really. So this is an upgrade as far as youth and speed and agility on special teams, and somebody who can contribute heavily in that area. And it is time to kind of reload in the mindset of having a core group of special teams dudes outside of just Miles Killebrew.
Yep. No, I'm right there with you. And I agree. I'm excited to get a fresh body in there. But I think there's a lot more to be said about this. We'll get into that later. I think there's going to be even more shakeups in that middle linebacker room than what we expect. Steelers also released outside or edge rusher Larry Ogunjobi, which was something that we've been kind of excited for and calling for. He just doesn't give us what we need out of him. There's no other way of saying that. The production's not there. He played too much and didn't perform enough. In other news, looking at the offensive line, Dan Moore to the Titans on a 4-year, $82 million contract. That is going to play very nicely into the
compensatory formula.
Compensatory formula, that's the word. And then same thing with Dante Jackson to the Chargers on a 2-year, $13 million a year deal, along with the Justin Fields signing. So Pittsburgh could have some nice draft picks next year in that compensatory pick. Or with those compensatory picks. So hopefully we can see some nice draft picks out of those.
Yeah, so the calculations early on are that the Dan Moore signing, assuming that nothing happens that counteracts it. Now, if we sign a quarterback outside, like, say, Aaron Rodgers or Daniel Jones and pay him, then it's going to be a wash on that. Yeah. The projection currently is that the Dan Moore will result in a third-round compensatory pick for Pittsburgh in the 2026 draft. Dante Jackson would have been a 6th round, but the Malik Harrison signing counteracts it. So that one's a wash. And then I haven't heard precise on Justin Fields yet and what that'll be, but averaging 20 million a year on that also makes me think that that's probably going to be at least a fourth round pick. So very important to see what Pittsburgh does in the remaining days in free agency here. There's been rumors of Darius Slay. Nothing will be official, it looks like, for a couple of days here as to whether or not he will be the new starting corner opposite Joey Porter Jr. I think you could do a lot worse than Darius Slay, even though he's 34 years old already. I think he'd be a great stopgap guy for a year. So hopefully that's a true thing and that ends up happening. Also, being that he was supposed to be released beforehand, he will not count into the compensatory formula also. So that is a tremendous thing. So the big moves here with trading for DK Metcalf, that doesn't factor into it. And then if we get Darius Slay, he also will not factor into it. So the only negative mark on that right now is Malik Harrison, and we'll see what else Pittsburgh does. But also rumors going around right now that Najee Harris is in contract talks with the Chargers. So if he gets big money there, which I would imagine it won't be less than 7 or 8 million, if he gets signed early on, it could be 10 million or more. Then you're bringing right back into a possible like 5th round pick or something.
Yeah. Last bit of news that we're not going to cover completely, but briefly discuss is Kenny Pickett, former Pittsburgh Steelers, now Super Bowl winning champion with the Philadelphia Eagles as a bench warmer, was traded to the Cleveland Browns. So he's back in the AFC North. The Cleveland Browns traded a 2025 5th round pick and QB Dorian Thompson Robinson for him. So very, very interesting trade there. And
he's going to get a chance there, bro.
He's going to get a chance there. And it's going to be very interesting to see how he plays against Pittsburgh, because I bet you he'll at least get a couple snaps, even if he's not the starter. Because Cleveland's just like that. So with that being said, that wraps up today's show. Please share with us in the comments or on social media what you guys think of this DK Metcalf trade. Do you want to see DK and George partner up? Do you want to see George on his way out now? Or what are your thoughts? We'd love to share. We'd love to share them on the show and talk about
Who do you want to see Pittsburgh sign in free agency? There's a lot of time left. Who do you want as a Steeler?
Throw it in the comment section. A lot of time. So can't thank you guys enough for being here. Make sure to like and follow on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube. Subscribe, ring the bell. It's free. Don't forget the 5-star reviews and Apple Podcasts make James very happy. And until next time, this is your host, James and Cody, signing off.
Peace.
Now it's time.